Today, I want to talk about career change in the COVID era. So the COVID situation has affected many people's career plans. But at the same time, a lot of people are still asking, so how can I actually have a career change and should I? Such as, I want to change, but there are not so many roles in the market. I applied and not much response, which further strengthens your belief. So let me start next year or when COVID is over. Is this actually good logic? Today, I want to share with you a few of the most common mistakes that people make. These are then my observation of the problems or challenges that my clients are facing. We can't really change the external world, but we can always work hard to increase our chance, and that's regardless of what the external situation is. From the moment we want to change to the time that we finally have opportunities, there are a lot of things happen in between, a lot of anxiety. Because under the water, we have so much of thinking and unvalidated fears, such as because I'm too inexperienced, or I'm too senior, too experienced, or my position is too niche, means there are limited options, or my position is just too popular, so I have a lot of competition, right? So with all these fears are affecting our thinking under the water, our whole career change process can actually be halted because there are simply too much thinking going on. So just now we talked about a very clear pattern of people, thinking about career strategy and then decision, trying to make a decision, and then goes back to the drawing board to think about what career should I want and then decide and all that. So a lot of people are trapped here before they actually roll into any action. And once you're in action, what you do is you send out your resume, you generate opportunities, and then you get interviews, and then you get offers eventually. So this whole thing, I'll call it funnel in action. Because you don't take action, this funnel becomes extremely thin, and opportunities are rare, conversions are very minimum, and obviously offers are hard to come by. So it's very important how we can actually get out of this whole funnel of inaction. So the first mistake here is that worrying is not thinking. So if we think that there are limited options because of my background, then we only apply for safe options. Or often when people think the roles are very scarce, they will think, okay, then not apply because the chance is low. I won't qualify for that role. I only apply for safe role. Market is bad now. Okay, let's hold off, right? So if you see, all these worries are actually not pushing us to do more, but they are making us do less. Why so? Because everyone has this kind of ROI thing in our mind. Job search is a very tedious and tough process, and then you just want to really save your energy for, actually, we don't know we are saving the energy for what, right? Maybe we are saving the energy for Netflix or just a night of good sleep. But at the same time, if you think about it, right, job search actually is one of the things that has the highest ROI in life, because it really has the potential to change your outlook and fix a lot of your current challenges, right? But at the same time, because of this ROI mindset, whenever people think there is a limited option or there is a very small chance, they just don't try anymore. When we do job search, as the worst case scenario is really just status quo. That because whether market is bad or not, you have this umbrella of your current reality. You still carry on with your current work. The best case is then you get to venture into a new world and new possibility.
Don't forget to subscribe. If you are already a subscriber, please do give the videos a like. It means a lot to me continuing with this channel.
We should have a very clear career strategy. So to do that, it's very important to understand ourselves. It's basically about, we look at what exactly career capital we have accumulated in the past. And then with that, we craft potential options with a good understanding of the world and possibilities. I've been in strategy roles, so I want to find jobs that are related to strategy. Looks like okay logic on the surface because you think you have it. You want to utilize what you have done and what you have learned. But strategy is not really just strategy, right? Because there are many components of strategy. So be very careful when you try to determine your career capital, because it's not so much of what people have labeled for you and what the kind of work that you have done. Just because we have been wearing square shoes, we don't necessarily have square feet, and it doesn't mean that we must always fit into square shoes again. For example, how many ways can matchsticks be used? The nature of matchstick, of course, an important part of it is linked to fire and warmth. You can use them to make puzzles, right? Or these mathematics kind of games because of the characteristic of being uniform and in large numbers. And this is a good example where all of these characteristics are being linked together, that people actually put the matchsticks together as some art, and then they burn it so that it quickly flaming up in a very beautiful way. But the other characteristics, such as it's long and thin and small, have been used for other things, right? Such as supporting the very sleepy eyelid or cleaning teeth and ear, and many other ways, right? So that's why when we look at the second mistake is that we tend to accept labels too much. And there are a lot of labels in life, not only about matchsticks being linked to fire and warmth, but also we accept labels of our profession in the past. And it's very important that we don't accept these labels and think of the core characteristic of our skill sets and fundamentally who we are. And on the other hand, we also need to really look at, what's under that iceberg to think about what's our real priorities, so that later when, in the process of job search and even when offers come, a lot of people are still debating because they don't know their priorities, or they just have too many priorities, which means none, right? So if you have very clear priorities and think through that at this stage, it's much better to think through that later, because later, once opportunities come or you are through certain interviews, your vision are likely to be very tunnel vision. Your mind will be fixed on these available options that you are able to see, and then you start to ignore the voices inside you about what you truly want. That is a danger. So once you have a clear career strategy, you should really go all in to generate pipelines. And very importantly, we should not act with the guidance of perception, because it does not matter, right, whether the whole world has few jobs. Some people are still getting jobs. Things are still going on. Statistically, maybe your chance has decreased, but at the same time, because a lot of people think the market is bad and then they stop acting, then your chance might actually have been increased versus decreased. But whichever it is, right, the external world is not in our control, and there should be no reason for us to slow down. Or if you say things are slow out there, so I want to slow down, that itself is not going to be that great argument or logic. So this is really the pipeline that generate more leads, and then the next is to work on conversion. So you need to invest time and effort on in a very good resume that fully represents who you are. In the most common cases that I observe, that people always change themselves in resume, and I'll talk about that in a bit later. The other thing is to develop foundation for a great interview. And a great resume would definitely be a great foundation for a great interview, which although it's not enough. And a good funnel should look like this. basically career strategy, understand, think through, and then go into execution and generate this awesome pipeline lining up opportunities, have great conversion into interviews and offers. So that's the funnel of action. And then you make a decision from there once you have the offers. So this is a framework I have developed and used in many of my coaching sessions. And it's very easy to use. I always start with my clients on know what, because we always think about this first, although this is actually the least important. Companies see what you know, as in what industry, domain, knowledge, and background that you have. And they also, in the interview or in the resume, they will be able to find out what you, how, you know, the kind of know-how that you have, like skills and the knowledge to do the work. But companies hire you actually for these two. One is your motivation and the innate capabilities that will enable you to attract more know-how and to accumulate more skills and to learn their industry trade. And also they want to know what kind of team player or worker you are when you interact with others, right? And so when I work with my clients, we go like peeling onions, right? We open the outer layer and then we open the inner layer all the way to the core. And then in this process, we will be able to develop a narrative just for the client, very specifically putting out the strengths. And then we sort of customize that according to the job or the industry or the function that he or she applied for. So this is something you can also help yourself with. I have on my website a download which consists of maybe like 50 questions, and you can do that checklist and figure out all the career capital that you have accumulated or the valuable things that you can bring along to your next job. Talk about resume improving the conversion. So just now I said that resumes, people tend to shortchange themselves, and actually it has to do with the way people write resumes. They tend to just load this resume like an autobiography, load all the facts, and that's done. But think about it, right? People don't write autobiography just by piling up facts. They think about writing a story or many stories to showcasing the person's personality. And resume should work the same. Similarly, in the history books, people don't just load with facts because facts are subjective. So in my website, you can also find the information on how to do very effective resumes. You can watch my other videos on how to do effective resumes and how to do power bullets and also how to have your resumes impressive. So factual resumes are not effective because it does not appeal to the emotional brain of the reader. And you want the reader to actually manage to get the most exciting part about your resume and form an impression in a very short time. And that really, they are not using their rational brain, because if they have to read line by line your resume, it's going to be too much work and nobody does that. So you have to build your resume that's ready for someone to skim through and like it in first few seconds. And it sounds very difficult, but it's actually very easy, right? So one of my clients, when I spoke with him, his resume was, so I'm like, okay, this whole part does not seem to be awesome or convincing. Why do you even bother to have all this? And he said, no, this was very, actually, it was a great initiative. It was very innovative. We were one of the kind to do this, as a pioneer. And we had partnership with this national organization. And I built things from this to this with a very strong impact. And I'm like, fine, then talk about all this in your resume, right? So your resume needs to cover all this exciting stuff, just like how you talk to me, not like how you loaded in your resume talking about I built sales conversion funnel, I built a team from 0 to 2, which does not sound as interesting, right? So you see, facts are facts are facts, but then you need to put in the facts that appeal to emotion and the facts that speak to your audience. Another mistake is we tend to use our old labels, right? So when I say old label is the current domain that you are working in. We are looking at a career change, you want to move into a new domain. The thing is, we are so used to describing what we are in with the labels and lingos and jargons that we are very used to in this domain. But if you are moving into a new domain, then it's most important that you need to translate what's happening in this to what's going to happen in that world. Why so? Because people in that world most likely don't understand your world so well. And you need to also lessen their cognitive load so that they don't need to go through that learning curve about what you are in, right? So let's say if you are in consulting and you want to move into a business development role, then not everyone really, in sort of real life kind of understanding to really understand what consulting guys do. And if you organize everything in, project, but what they are looking for is skill and type of work or function, then your project kind of layout would actually not be what they are looking for. And also, when here you talk about pitching for business proposal, and which is not going to be a skill required in the business development role, let's say, I'm just assuming, then you actually need to translate that into something else, into maybe, structuring a solution or forming a deal, which would be more relevant for the next role, right? And the same thing would actually also apply to, say, when you want to change into a new country. And a lot of times, let's say someone who has been in Middle East and has nothing to do with Asia Pac or Southeast Asia, then it's important that you actually think of what other international experience you had or people from Asia you have worked with in the past. Would make sure that is able to come up in your resume in a certain way. And there are many tricks that I have been teaching my clients to do it without making up any story. It's just a different way of presenting the facts. Similarly, when we look at seniority, right? Again, do you want to really position yourself as someone who's ready to progress to an executive level of role, then you need to already showcase that your current work, it includes those components of the executive way of thinking and leadership. Another interesting mistake often happens with high achievers or anyone who has a good list of achievement that you can talk about. And people generally think, okay, then I'm just listing my achievement. But that's not enough, because if you showcase that you have become your employee of the year, or you did, top 20% in your school, that does not explain what challenges you had to overcome and how you did well. And often people fail to describe why this achievement is commendable, right? If you were employee of the year, despite that you actually had a sick family member you need to take care of, or despite that at the same you were actually doubling head for 2 jobs at one time, then that achievement suddenly becomes, a much higher achievement. And the other part is why it's transferable, right? If you say, I managed to achieve this through, great time management, effective leadership and communication skills, or having innovative solutions, and you back that up with real information, just a snippet of that, but it will make everything look much more interesting because it tells us who you are, your resilience, or your problem solving skills, or your leadership skills, and all that, right? And so that the possible employers would think, okay, this is something you can bring along to the next job. So a quick wrap up on good resumes here. It's important that you appeal to emotion. You need to tell a story that's memorable, just like what you would tell people in real life, in face-to-face situation. And you need to remove your old labels, right? You need to then make sure you put in the new labels to help your audience to translate your current setup to something they can understand. And also you need to talk about how you got there, right? If you have achievements or you have overcome certain challenges, you need to talk about through doing what you managed to reach, what kind of achievement, which has what kind of impact. And this is a very common mistake that I mentioned just now, right? Whenever there is an offer or you are close to offer, you have tunnel vision. You start to no longer see anything else, any other possibilities in the world. There's only going to be your current job or your current situation versus that job on offer. But do remember there are also opportunity costs, right? If you don't take this up, what are other things? Or if you do take that up, what are the things that you will actually be missing, right? So all these need a very fair assessment and also a very clear understanding of your priorities. If your priority has been to have a good work-life balance and focus more time on your family, then a job that tells you that you have to be 24/7 standby, and you have to sacrifice a lot of your time. But now the career prospect and also the money aspect look awesome. You should not go for it, because if your priority is real and you do have such a need, you will not be happy in this new offer, because that will be that's more of temptation than a fulfillment of your real